Welcome back to the Money Mom Show. This is your host, Sherri Gray, and we are talking about getting spouses on board to reach common financial goals. We kind of got off on a tangent last segment about the roles of husband and wives, but it actually fits into what we're talking about here today because it's all about working together and coming together to reach those common financial goals and common goals in general overall. So one of the things I want to ask you, Davon, is how would you describe a reluctant spouse?
Well, I was actually thinking about, it's funny you should mention that word reluctant. I mean, I looked that up one time in the dictionary a while ago. I was teaching about something with the word reluctance in it, and the word reluctance actually means a mental struggle, which is very interesting because oftentimes what you have is a mental struggle when somebody's reluctant to do something because in the back of their mind there's fear. It's fear to trust. It's fear of the results. It's fear of it may be fear of any number of things. And so, when you have a reluctant spouse in a relationship, especially when you're talking about money, usually it's resulting in fear or a lack of trust. We can sugarcoat it with a whole lot of different things, but that's usually what it ends up coming down to. And, that's just a symptom of a much bigger illness, I should say. And basically when you're dealing with a reluctant spouse, especially with finances, you have to get to the root of that and find out where is the fear or where is the distrust at and resolve that. And then all the other things tend to take care of themselves.
I say that, too, because the money is usually a symptom. It's not the actual problem. It's something much deeper. Some trust issue has happened in the marriage, and they don't want to trust their spouse with anything, especially their money. They want to always keep it separate. So if you completely trust your spouse, then you wouldn't have an issue putting your money together like I always recommend to couples. But it is. It's always a deeper issue. When there's money problems or money issues in a marriage, it's always something much deeper.
Yeah, I mean, the way we spend, the way we do different things, if you're a relationship, and I know I was kind of a little bit more, loose with the change, if you will, at the beginning of our marriage. It's harder to trust somebody if you're not sure they're going to do what you think they're going to do.
Right.
It's one day it's A, the next day it's C. You never know.
That's true because, you work hard for your money and you want to make sure that that person who's handling, because usually one person handles the money, the other person kind of, they're involved and they kind of, look at things, but it's usually the husband or the wife who does the budget and pays the bills and things like that. So it does take an extreme amount of trust on, for your spouse, for you to trust them to handle the money and the relationship, definitely, especially if you're just married and you've always handled things on your own, and it's just hard to give that over to someone. But, again, I tell people, even if one person is the person who handles the money, who does the budget, the other spouse still has to say. The other spouse should still be looking at the budget and looking at and making decisions because you're supposed to do this together as a couple. The husband should leave his mother and father and cleave to his wife, and they become one flesh. Not two separate bank accounts, one flesh. Now,
Absolutely.
The one thing I want to ask you is, what do you think is a common mistake that husbands make who want to get their wives on board financially? The husband says, I want to get out of debt. I want to start, looking at our money. I want to start saving for the future. What is the mistake that they make trying to get their wives on board?
Well, I think that one of the things about, from a man's perspective in a marriage is when you decide when you make that decision to do something, it's kind of a hard charger. You're like, okay, this is what I want to do, and I want to do it right now. I want to get this done. This needs to get done. This, and this. And a lot of times, I always say there's usually in a relationship, there's usually one of the two persons, hopefully is one of two, that's a deliberate thinker. And a lot of times if the man is going forward like that full steam ahead, the woman is usually the deliberate thinker in that relationship, and she's, okay, what's your plan? What are you going to be doing? What do you think? And it needs to be more than just an emotional decision. And that's whether it's a man or a woman, but specifically with a man, it can't just be the decision. It's got to be the follow-up to the decision. What is the plan, and how do you plan to go about it? Now, from that perspective, hopefully the wife will come and say to her husband, I'm on board with this now, and I believe in you, and I trust you, and I think you'll do the right thing. That does a lot for any husband.
Mm-hmm.
And so usually that's the thing that the husband has to overcome is that, I'm the hard charger, but do you have a plan? Do you know what you really want to accomplish by doing whatever it is you say you do? And once you get that, usually, your wife will look at and see that you're not just talking, and this is something you're really serious in doing, and we'll get behind you.
That's true, because you may have gone to a workshop, the husband may have gone to a workshop or a seminar, and they get all excited, and they come home and tell the wife, and they're gung-ho and all that stuff, and she's like, whoa, wait a minute. You're telling her to switch everything that you guys have done up to this point and do something completely different. For a woman, like you said, she has to see the end. She has to see, okay, we're making the sacrifice, we're doing these things, well, what's the end result? What's the goal?
Yeah, I always kind of, with things like finances or even just, setting goals and doing different things in your life, we want to be like a speedboat. We want to make a quick turn and just everything just be real quick, when the reality is it's more like an aircraft carrier. It's a slow but methodic turn over a period of time that begins to see and get the results. But nevertheless, the turn has to be made. But it's not going to be an overnight thing. And sometimes when people get all excited like that, they expect things to just change overnight. And it's a slow, habitual process. It has to be a habit that forms that says, we're going to do this over time. And you can expect there's going to be a test. Something's going to come up that's going to test whether or not you're actually going to do what you say you're going to do.
There's always a test, no matter what. When you get on the path to doing something right, especially when you're doing things in line with God, there's a test, because we're going to see, okay, are you serious? Are you really serious? Are you say with your mouth, or do you believe it in your heart? Are you going to show that you are committed with your actions? And it's funny you should say the quote or the thing you said about the aircraft carrier, because I always tell people, reaching your financial destiny is a marathon. It's not a sprint. You're not gonna get there overnight. You didn't get here overnight, and you're not gonna reach your financial destiny overnight either. So you have to be patient, but you have to be diligent and know that even when you hit bumps in the road, it's okay. You may trip, dust yourself off, get back up, and keep moving. Because if you don't stop moving and you don't quit, you'll eventually reach that goal.
Absolutely. I mean, it's success in life is always about what you do, what you're committed to doing. And if you think about all the things in life, for the better or for the worse, that you're committed to, those are the things you will always see results at. That there's no, I mean, it is a law of nature. If you plant something in the ground and it rains and the environment is the way it should be, it's going to grow. It's just absolutely going to grow. And so then after that, what you do to it will cause it to grow and be fruitful and multiply. But one thing is for sure is whatever you commit, whatever you are committed to, it's going to grow. It's just the way that nature is and the way God's made it to be, that whatever you do committed, it's going to absolutely happen. And so that's why we have to be, very habitual about how we do our finances. And especially like if you're a man who's not doing the right thing and then all of a sudden you decide you want to do the right thing with their finances, understand that it's a long-term process. You even may make mistakes at it. And don't get on yourself or don't give up. You got to get back on. If you fall off, get back on and keep going. And eventually you will see results. There's no doubt about that.
Now, one of the things that I think that, say, if the woman is the one who's excited about, their financial future, and she comes in all excited, and she talks to her husband, we got to do this and do this, it's kind of the same thing. He's like, whoa, we've been doing this for so long this way, and it'll be a little bit of a resistance. But that spouse or husband has to see that there's a goal. There's a reason that we're sacrificing. We're not just doing it for just sacrificing sake. There is a goal. And then even with the sacrifice, to put little things in there where when you reach a goal, that you reward yourself. And if that person who's reluctant, if they see that it's not just all sacrifice and that they can still do things, they can still have some fun, then they're probably more willing to come on board. And as far as a woman, that's why I want to put that scripture in 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 3, where it talks about wives in the same way submit yourselves to your own husbands, so that if any of them do not believe the word, and this is a key, if they don't, if they're on board with what you're doing, the woman should win her husband over. It says they may be won over without words by the behavior of their wives. So a lot of times we as wives, we want to just talk and talk and talk and talk, and we want to just kind of drill our husbands, you got to do this, got to do this. But the scripture says sometimes as a wife, your husband will be won over without words, and he will be won over by your behavior. I remember when, and I talked about this before, when I first joined my church, Grace Church in Dumfries, Virginia. I've been a member of Grace for about a year before my husband joined Grace, and I didn't badger him. I didn't say, you need to go to church, you need to do this, you need to do that. I just took me and my daughter, we went to church every week, and eventually he saw what was going on, and he was on board. So sometimes there's a time for talking, but then there's a time for doing and leading by example. If your husband's not on board, sometimes you maybe need to take a step back and say less and show him more.
Yeah, and just one thing I would say to that, and this is, both, again, this is not just probably for husbands, it's probably for wives as well, but me, myself personally, I'm a results-oriented person. If I see results, I'm usually, you don't usually have to say anything else. I'm on board with it. And so when you see results or you see the change, again, this is something that you have to be committed to. You can't let, because your spouse is saying, well, that's something I'm not on board with. Usually you just have to show them. Number one, I've always understood this, and I try to do this the best I can, is that you never try to deal with the person if that's the person you have. If you're having a problem with somebody, you don't just go and deal directly with them. You go to God first, get instructions on what He knows about that individual, and then utilize that information God will give you through prayer and through the studying of the Scriptures and understanding of the Scriptures, and then use that to begin to alter the way you deal with that person. You never can deal with a person that you're having a problem. That's why, I always tell people in the Catholic Church, you go to confession. You go to a priest, and the reason you're doing it because that's a person of higher authority. You cannot solve, as Bishop Greer says at Grace, that you can't solve a problem at the same level with the same person it was caused by. And so you can't just go and deal with a person that that's not in line with you about a specific thing. You got to go to God first, get an understanding, and then get the love of God, not just the law of God to go and badger people with the word, but to get the love of God and then start to see that love is what's going to eventually change that person and get them on board.
So sometimes a kind tongue, the way we approach people, makes a huge difference. And, I'm a work in progress, Davon, so, I'm still working on that. But I think I've gotten better.
You got a lot better. We both have. We've both gotten better. And for wives that are out there, that is just so key, is that, and for husbands too, like I said, badgering the other person just sends them further away. Nobody likes to be criticized all the time.
Well, right now we're going to take a quick break, and I'm going to leave you with the sounds of Stephen Curtis Chapman. This is his new song called Long Way Home. This is Sherri Gray, the Money Mom, and I'll see you in a few.